morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. So before we get started, I'd love to give a big round of applause to Mr. Brent Leary. This is Brent's one of the greatest community builders I know. So, thank you for putting this on. So Brent said multi-millions in exits, and I did the quick math as we walked up here, and I think these guys are responsible for over $250 million in exits with their businesses. So some great entrepreneurs here that we have on the stage, and I'll go ahead and just briefly introduce the three gentlemen, and then we'll jump in with some questions, and at the end we'll have time for 2 or 3 questions from the audience. So right to my right is T.A. McCann, and T.A. was the founder of a company called Gist, which was a social contact management application that was acquired by RIM, and he now heads product and strategy for all their social initiatives. I've known all these gentlemen and learned a ton from these guys, so I'm real excited about the message that they'll have. In the middle is John Ferrara, who is the founder and CEO of Nimble, and Nimble is one of the first true social CRMs on the marketplace. And John is one of the godfathers of CRM, having founded Goldmine back in the day, so he's got some great perspective. And then David Cummings. David is a friend of mine, and as well as a great entrepreneur. He's the founder and CEO of Pardot, which recently sold for $100 million to ExactTarget. And he's a parallel entrepreneur that runs many businesses and is never bored with his work. So guys, we're talking today about how customer expectations have changed. And you all have run multiple businesses. So I want to ask you, TA, just right off the bat, from your first businesses and your early entrepreneurship to now, how have customer expectations changed, or how has your understanding of customer expectations changed in the marketplace?
Yeah, I would say there are two. One is on the customer experience side. So people's tolerance for a product that doesn't work or doesn't look like it works very well is small and getting smaller. So you have to hook them very quickly into some sort of value before they'll make a choice to move on to something. And then second is, I'd say, the engagement model. So when we started Gist in 2008, Twitter was just starting to happen. And the engagement model, certainly from a customer engagement and a support engagement, like we wouldn't have thought about that at all. And now a big portion of our engagement, both in terms of marketing and support, happens on primarily Twitter, followed closely by Facebook and LinkedIn. But Twitter, I think, is the most interesting part of that change over the last few years.
Great. John, when you all built Nimble, how did you account for the way the customer will interact, and how big a role did that play in the product's creation?
Well, you know, really the roots of Nimble go back to the concepts of Goldmine, and ultimately it's about context. Because ultimately, it's not salespeople that drive your company. It's really everybody who's customer-facing within your organization. And one of the things I learned early on when I first got into sales is that salespeople don't work in a vacuum. They work as part of a larger team, and everybody in that team is part of that conversation. And so I think that in today's marketplace, it's more critical than ever, especially when salespeople, in many cases, are being taken out of the whole marketing loop and the customer engagement cycle by companies like Pardot and HubSpot and Marketo and Eloqua. And what's going on is that the whole customer journey and the experience is radically shifting, where customers are doing their own homework, they're making their own buying decisions, and then they're starting to yell back at companies on whatever channel they want to whatever department they want, and they expect an authentic and relevant response in a timely fashion from that department, and most companies aren't prepared for that.
And to play off of the word authentic there, I think nowadays people look for more opinions from companies. So before, a company might have been more bland, more of here's what we do. Nowadays, the brands, even on the B2B side, are more geared towards this is our stake in the market, this is how we present ourselves, this is how we're either a little bit more fun or a little bit more serious or a little bit more playful. Even on the B2B side, we're seeing more strongly opinionated brands, much like you might have found on the consumer side historically. And I think we're going to see that even more so going forward.
Can I add to that just a little bit? I think another part is that the better salespeople are becoming more of customer advocates as opposed to salesmen. So they walk in and say, I want to understand your problem, and if Nimble is a better solution, I'm better off recommending Nimble than trying to jam my solution in there. And the more that I know about the other 10, 20, 30, 50 solutions, the more effective I can be as a customer advocate as opposed to a pure salesperson.
I really believe that the whole image of a salesperson has gotten almost to an all-time low. If you do a survey, they're right down there with, I apologize if there are any attorneys in the room, right down there with the people that really they don't think that has a role in their professional engagement. But I think that what TA is saying is exactly spot on, is that I think the roles within organizations of the people that wear the sales hat or the customer service hat or the accounting hat is going to shift, where salespeople will start providing customer service experiences during their process of conversation. Because I think that the best time to get close to a customer is when you're pulling a thorn out of their foot, right? If you could actually be on the phone with somebody instead of trying to jam your idea down at them, find out how you can help them solve their problem. Pull that thorn out of their foot. And when you do that, you're developing a connection where there's trust, and they're going to open up to you about their business issues, and that is when, as a professional, you can help solve them. And so I think that the future of business is in engagement and conversation, is truly understanding your customer and serving their needs in a mutually beneficial relationship.
And ask yourself, if you're in a sales role, which many of us would be, when the customer asks, can you recommend a product? Can you recommend a conference? Can you recommend an article or something they should read, or a set of people they should know to solve their problem? And oh, by the way, I might have a product that works there too, but put that fifth in line, not first.
Yeah, I think that the future of business is not telling companies or prospects how great your products and services are, but really teaching them how they can be great. If you can teach your customers how to fish, they'll figure out you sell fishing poles.
Guys, this is a different perspective than businesses have had traditionally. This is a more open, a more transparent, a more personal way that businesses represent themselves. David, I know your business was known for its culture, or is known for its culture. Can you share some anecdotes about Pardot and how this era of transparency and openness and personality comes out in your messaging and your branding and in your customer relations?
So early in the Pardot experience, we were really struggling with how to differentiate ourselves from the main competitors in the market. And after going through that for about 6 or 12 months, we realized that the market at the time, this is back in 2007, 2008, was very much traditional enterprise software. Pricing wasn't published. 2-year contracts were commonplace. Salespeople were pushy. It was just a very traditional enterprise software model. And we said, what happens if we flip this on its head? What if we make our pricing totally transparent? What if we have all month to month, no contracts at all? What if we take all of our knowledge base, all of our onboarding materials, even our forum, and make it totally public online and really put everything out there? One of the things that we would say frequently internally is the best form of sales for us is to educate our customers. So the best form of sales is really education, knowing that if we educated them as well as we could, provided everything that they needed in a self-service manner, at the end of the day, they would have a better customer experience.
Great. So there are now new tools, new methods to finding your customers, to communicating with your customers. TA, I've heard you talk a little bit about the early days of Gist, of how you would set up weekly events where you'd have customers come to your office and you just engage deeply with them. Can you tell some examples about how you have stayed really close to the customer and how technologies have helped you do that?
Yeah, so I believe, I'm really a product kind of guy. I'm an engineer, but I really enjoy the direct interaction with the customer. When I first built Gist, I thought it was for salespeople. So I wanted to meet the best salespeople I could, and so I would invite them on Wednesday nights to come to the office, 1 or 2 of them, and I would spend the first 10 minutes trying to understand what they do. Where do they learn about new things? Whose blogs do they read? What technologies they use? The next 10 minutes, I would show them my very below average version of my product and get their feedback. And the last 10 minutes of that interaction, I would try to share with them a bunch of other solutions I knew that might solve their problem. Contact management, CRM, et cetera. I did that every Wednesday night for 18 months. And I built that into the team. So as the team went from me to 3 to 6 to 12 to 15, effectively the whole team would participate in that, and then we'd stay late after that and drink beer and pizza and work late into the night. But that was the first 18 months, and then we hired a guy named Greg Meyer. If you look for him online, he writes a lot about this customer advocacy component, and Greg sort of took that over and tried to scale that out into the social media space, out into other places. And you know, as a team of 22, we had one of our people, what all he did was find people who were important who were having a problem and go solve it, and find people who liked our product who were important and turn them into marketing. And that's all he did. And Gist was acquired. Greg left 2 weeks later. He went to Desk.com, and 3 months later, they were acquired by Salesforce. So now Greg does that job on behalf of Salesforce. So customer advocacy and direct customer engagement was really important for us.
Very cool. And John, your tool actually helps people engage with their customers. What have you learned, and what has kind of spurred on your creation of Nimble? Is it based on that, allowing companies to connect with their customers in new ways and allowing them to have deeper engagement?
Well, absolutely. I think one of the biggest struggles that we all have is maintaining and managing the engagement to the context that we're doing it with. And so if you think about the way that social media is used in most companies, it's really, most companies have adopted social media to react to people yelling at them. They hire a 25-year-old kid and give him Hootsuite and say, go get him. And so the next phase in social media adoption is using social media to yell at your customers about how great your products and services are and use it in marketing. And that's phase number 2. And I think that the next phase of social media adoption within businesses is basically going to be empowering all the team members within a company to begin to do what I call the 5 E's of social business. It's educate, enchant, engage, embrace, and empower your customers. And you do that by giving your knowledge away. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a small company called IBM that does that on a daily basis. I want you all to go out and search on your browser, on your Twitter stream, pound IBM, pound social biz, space IBM. And what you'll see is worldwide there are customer-facing business people at IBM who on a daily basis are educating and engaging the constituency out there in the river, in the social river. And what that does is it builds their personal brand. And by building their personal brand, they're building the company brand. And if you think about it today, IBM within 2 years has become a thought leader in social business by empowering their customer-facing line-level business people to build their personal brand and thereby build the company brand. And this is the type of engagement that can truly scale a company and a brand. And you can see examples of that all across the industry. HubSpot is an example of that. There isn't one person at HubSpot that shares and engages. Everybody in the company is doing that. And that is the future of social business. The problem is when you're doing that, there's no context to the conversation. So basically, y'all live in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Foursquare, Google+, and Instagram. And then you try to manage it with Hootsuite or TweetDeck. But none of those conversations is tied back to who you're talking about, the customer prospect contacts that your company does business with, and that's what we're trying to solve with Nimble, is helping you bring context to contacts with insights to allow you to know which customer you should be talking to right now.
I mean, it's really incredible when you think about it. Because we were effectively competitors when I was Gist and we were Nimble, or slightly related, but I use the term like the 360-degree view of the customer. So each one of you have a view which may be between us, emails, meetings, phone calls. Then there's like this whole life that you have out there that I want to understand. Oh, you just came back from Hawaii, or your kids are playing a soccer game. And you work for a company and they have a sort of a persona. And so Nimble or Gist or other products that are in our space help you to get that sort of holistic view of the person you're interacting with. And you may choose different ways to build a relationship. Oh, my kid plays soccer too. How was Hawaii? Which is a totally different thing. Or I enjoyed that article you posted on Twitter about XYZ. It's very difficult to get that all together unless you're using a product like one of ours. And yet it's a means for you to build strong relationships and understand context of the people you're dealing with. And people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. And you need to really think that through in a sales context.
You know, TA, you're exactly right. But the thing I think that people forget about is it's not only the relationship. Not all customers want a relationship with you. What they want is they want to solve their business issues. So I think that it's easy to sort of go down the road that thinks everybody wants to engage with me and have a relationship with me, and that's my job as a salesperson. No, your job as a salesperson is to solve problems in a efficient, professional, scalable way. And so I think that the tools that we're talking about allow you to crack the door open, to establish the relationship which leads to trust, which then they open up to you about their business issues, which as a professional you can then solve. The problem is in sales, you don't work as a standalone person, and the tools that we use need to enable an entire team to begin to do that more effectively.
Very cool. So what we're talking about here is engaging and educating our customers and our community, building community around the folks that have the problem that our services and our products solve. Question for David: how tactically do you communicate via blog, content marketing? What are some ideas for ways to tactically have that message out and connect with the people that you're looking to, that are your audience and that you're looking to build community with?
So I'm a big fan of inbound marketing or content marketing. I think the idea of outbound marketing, as Kyle blogged about yesterday, versus inbound marketing is very much the way of the future and the way of today. Even looking out in the audience here, we have Adam from Insightpool, who has a Twitter application to more effectively engage with their fans. Rob from Badgie has a tool to more effectively engage with fans. So I think it's going to be a combination of inbound marketing, where you're producing high-quality content as well as tools. So if you look at JobChangeAlerts.com, JobChangeAlerts.com is an app that ties into your LinkedIn account, and it'll alert you whenever anybody in your LinkedIn network changes jobs, which as a salesperson is a great, compelling event with which to reach out and say, oh, congrats on the new job, as well as to stay top of mind. So tools in the market combined with content marketing, combined with many applications, many being really tiny special purpose apps that help people solve problems, I think that's the future of marketing.
Very cool.
It's a great product, Job Change Alerts.
So
I'm a fan.
TA, where's all this heading? So lots has changed up to now, but what's the future of marketing and sales and connecting with customers? What are we going to see in the next couple of years?
Well, I would argue that most companies, even the most sophisticated ones, don't yet still have a holistic understanding of a user. It's quite difficult. Databases, different systems, no APIs. Every now and again, you can stitch together a couple of pieces. Like somebody read this blog post and retweeted and then bought my product. Like even that's sometimes pretty difficult. Mm-hmm. Let alone they bought my product, then they told 3 other people about my product, and they told 7 other people. Like that, we will get there sometime soon, but that's quite challenging. But so I think that's one component of it. I think this sort of deeper understanding and profiling of people. So if you look at, all of you probably have an email list, right, of number of customers. But can you stack rank that email list based on Cloud Score? Like who's actually influential? Can you stack rank that list on who has some influence to your brand or product? And could you combine those 2 things together to say, who has real relevance and influence and who likes my thing? And how do I make sure to send them a t-shirt? Like that in and itself, which we did at GIST and did a lot of that by hand. There are tools which are emerging that will allow you to do that type of thing. But you talk to, for every 100 people I would talk to, there's like 2 who would have done even something as simple as I just described. And yet what you really want to do is say, how do I make sure to figure out who I should send a t-shirt to or a Christmas card to say, thanks a lot for doing this particular thing with our product, or I think you would really like this blog post, or you should come to this conference. So that's, I would say, forms of customer engagement where you're identifying key influencers who have high affluence to your product or your brand or your space and engaging them in unique and different ways.
I think it's all still too complex and hard. I think that all of us as business professionals know what we should do. I think as human beings, we know what we should do. Do we all eat right? Do we all exercise right? No. I think to be a business professional today is hard. I think that every day you wake up and you look at your inbox and you start digging out of that hole in the sand, and it never, ever, ever is empty. It continually fills up. We spend our days basically reacting to messages coming to us rather than having a plan and a purpose on a daily basis. And I think that we all need help with that. I think that Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, Brian Tracy, Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, they're all teaching the same message. We need to do the basics. John Wooden said that, and that's what wins games. It's just today it's harder to do. With all these different signals and channels and people to communicate, as an individual business person, it's hard to do. As a company, it gets really, really complex. And what are the solutions? If you think about this word of social business, social selling, social CRM, it's even confusing. What the heck is a social CRM, right? If everybody's calling themselves social CRM, is it the application of social to enterprise software? What are these enterprise software tools? Social marketing, social service, social selling, social analytics, social community. I think it's all these different tools that we're all trying to apply to our business to help us with the customer lifecycle process. And I think the future is not one monolithic company and product that's going to do all that for us, like Microsoft Office. Because how many of you still today use Microsoft Office? I think we're all using the best of breed little pieces, and we want to pull them together. So I think that all these software companies that are emerging today with these open APIs are going to be able to allow you as a customer to tie the products together that best suit you. Because if you think about it, all these different marketing programs and engagement systems, if you could pull them together and have them intelligently help you do your job, it's going to be a lot more fun. And I think that the tools that provide insights, that help you find the needle in the haystack, that empower you to connect with the right customer at the right time on the right channel with the right message, that is the thing that's going to change your lives. And I think we're getting real close to being there.
I'm solving that inbox problem, by the way.
Bring it.
Well, great, guys.
Messages from my customers, messages from people I'm meeting with today, messages from only important people. Working on that one.
Cool.
Well, let's open it up to some questions from the audience.
I appreciate what John said. I really focused in on that because if IBM is a small business and I'm a microscopic one, but what you talked about, I think, is a comprehensive approach to how we use it, because it does mind boggle me when I looked over the companies here today and what you guys were talking about. It's a lot for your brain, and it's an overload.
Yeah.
So how do we take that and compartmentalize that to what we're doing individually? And I think you were going on the right track with that. So if you guys could talk about that part, because I think that's important. It's a lot of stuff there, but just because it's there doesn't mean we all should use it or it all suits us.
And I absolutely agree with you. I think that most people that talk about this stuff talk about it at 60,000 feet with big old words that are just too complex, with big products that are expensive that in many cases aren't applicable to the small work group market or the individual business professional. And back in the gold mine days, half our customers were individual people. The other half of them were companies in the 5 to 50 team market. And if you come back to my session at 10-something, I'm going to talk about how individual business professionals can do simple things to build their personal brand and grow their network and turn that network into opportunities.
I'd give you the advice, I agree that it's too complicated, is in this room there are probably, I'll just put Kyle on the spot. Kyle is quite well versed in many of these technologies, so take him to coffee and say, these are some of the problems I think I need to solve. Which one do you think I should tackle first, and what tool should I use? And there are a bunch of people in this community. I'm from Seattle and came down. There's a lot of people in this community that are wanting to sort of share that information. Half an hour coffee. You'll just want to pick one thing. You don't want to pick all the things. Pick one thing to start with. It might be your personal brand. It might be the email list thing I talked about. It might be working on Facebook. There's a variety of them. But leveraging a connection with another person that can easily think, oh, if I were in your shoes, I would do this, and I would use these 2 or 3 things. And then you can stay in that little compartment for a little while until you feel like I got that one, and then move on to a different one. But leverage your social graph. There are smart people in this room who are willing to help.
Cool. Time for one more?
One quick question. Adam, you're on the spot. Do you guys think there should be a difference between a CRM for sales guys and a CRM for marketers? And if so, what are those differences?
No.
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 Well, there you have it. No.
That's about as quick as you can get. All right. Can we give him a round of applause? That was a great.